Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? My crazy hair, first of all. I couldn't find my hat. I know that most of you guys don't even watch the video, so you're like, Peter, it really doesn't matter. Anyway, it is currently 3:52 a.m. on this very average 55 degree Thursday. Oh, I forgot this road is closed and I can't go through here. Oh, I think there's some way to get around this. Anyway, Thursday morning going into Friday. It seems crazy that it's already the weekend. And I laid down last night at 11:08 was the last time that I looked at my phone, and I woke up. Oh, here, it shows you how to get through here. Well, that makes sense. And I woke up literally like 10 minutes ago, and so now I'm here. Hi. And I was having like really scary like nightmares. And I think, I really do believe that, is that like business out of business? It's like all closed down. It's like a huge building. You could see in there and there was nothing going on. I am such a believer that if I eat right before I go to bed, that has a lot to do with me having nightmares. And I base it all on A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. When Ebenezer Scrooge sees Marley's ghost and he blames it on a bit of stew. I've talked about that on here before. I really do. Like, I believe that. I believe that, like, if you eat before you go to bed, maybe that's why you're having, like, wild and, you know, crazy dreams. Anyway. So, I have a Diet Coke right here. Y'all want to hear about my dreams? I know sometimes you guys are like, we love to hear about your dreams, and other times you're like, no, not really, I could care less. So, dream number one, well, they kind of all blurred together, was I lived on this, like, we were living, like, on the street that had, like, these huge hills, and all the houses, it was, like, there were these huge pine trees at the top, and all of the houses were hidden by, like, these pine trees. They were, like, in the woods. It was kind of like where I grew up a little bit, honestly. But it was, like, YouTubers that lived in these houses. And some of them I knew, and some of them I didn't know. And I had an appointment with my personal trainer, my old personal trainer that I had at my gym. I had, like, an appointment with him, and I had to walk, like, outside this one way, and on the top of this corner lived Zach Garcia from The Adventures of Zach and Bee, and his husband Alistair, and they would be, like, up, like, really late at night, and there were, like, other people that lived in this house too. It was like their family and, like, stuff lived with them. And so there was always a lot going on at the house. Like, in my dream, like, I walked by their house, like, every night. But Zach would always be, like, they have this, like, long screened-in porch. And Zach would be, like, asleep, like, on the front porch. And, like, when I would walk by, it would wake him up. And he'd be like, who's there? And I'd be like, it's just me, Zach, it's Peter. And he'd be like, oh, hey, Peter, how are you doing? And anyway, then... so, like, that was, like, and I talked to other people that lived along there, but I, like, just remember, like, them living right next to us. I think it's because I had just watched, the end of their last video, because I hadn't finished it, and I think that's why that might have something to do with it. I don't know, probably. I had watched it earlier today. I had watched a bunch of videos earlier today, though, so I don't know why. And then, later in my dream, a bunch of other stuff happened, and then, yeah, it was just real weird. Then, this old friend of mine, who I literally, you guys, I have not seen in, like, don't even know the last time I've seen her. Anyway, it's been forever. And she and I were very, very close back in the day. And she's trans, and I would travel with her a lot. And only one time ever being with her did we ever encounter, like, any kind of, like that she would, like, anybody was cruel to her. And, so in my dream, and I don't know what made me dream about her anyway, it's just, like, the weirdest thing. I have not thought about her in, the longest time. But she used to work, like, in Louisville and in Nashville and stuff like that. And so I used to travel with her a lot. Another friend of mine and I, the three of us would travel together. And so do you know what is so random is that somebody I knew from back then too, I saw this video clip come up on YouTube today. Too much YouTube and too much food. That's what's going on. It was like her crowning talent at, like, Miss something something, and she was really good friends with her. I wonder if that might be why I had that dream. But anyway, we were in Walmart, okay? And it was like now, it was like September. And they had just put all their Christmas stuff out. So my neighbor in real life, she just, like, put this pumpkin out, okay? And it's like this, like, wood stake in the ground. It looks like very, like, craft show pumpkin, but it's big. It's like 3 feet in the air, and the pumpkin's like this big. It's really cute, and I want one, right? Okay, so I mean, not identical to it, but I would love to have something similar to it because I think it's just really adorable. And so in my dream, my friend and I were looking at this Christmas stuff that were in these glass cases, and, like, everywhere that I was going to, like, a personal training appointment. And so I was, like, constantly, like, sitting down, putting on my sneakers, right? Like, wherever I was. If I was, like, walking past, like, Zach's house in my dream, like, I was, like, sitting on the curb, putting my sneakers on. Like, does that make, like, I'd stop, and I could, like, I'd look up, and I could see, like, the lights coming through, like, what do you call it? The, porch. And I'd be, like, talking to him that way while I was, like, sitting there putting my shoes on. She and I were, like, in Walmart, and I was, like, putting my shoes on. And there was this thing that said, it's Christmas. It was, like, this big wooden thing, and it said, it's Christmas, welcome, or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, I want that for my front yard. And so I was, like, taking a picture of it, because I was like, I'll never remember that at Christmas time, that I want that, right? And there was this other woman there, and there was this woman there, and her, like, grandson, and she was, like, probably, like, in her early 70s, and this kid was, I don't know, she said something to me about, I said, oh, are you excited to be out with your grandma today, or something like that, and she goes, well, I'm his mom, and I go, oh, okay, well, Mom. And she said, yeah, today's our, she called it something weird that I had never heard of before. She called it something like, today's his new birthday day, or something like that. And I said, oh, well, what's that? And she said, well, his parents and his sister died in a car accident, and so he's going to come and live with us now. And they were, like, real happy about it. And I didn't really know what to say, and I was like, oh my, because I was kind of, like, inside of my dream, I was like, oh my God. I think this is because I've been reading too much true crime, listening to too many podcasts. And I was like, congratulations. And then, she was like, well, I have another daughter, too, that he's going to be like, she was telling me, like, everything about her life, and I was like, oh, okay. So then my friend and I had to use the restroom, and she's like, well, I'm going to come in with you. And so she came into the restroom with me at Walmart, and she used, like, the stall, right? And there was this guy that was in there with us. It was just, like, the three of us. And, like, I got real nervous that he was going to, like, that something was going to go down. That he was going to be, like, really aggressive or violent. And so sure enough, like, I'm like going to the door so I can kind of like see if anybody's coming in while I'm like waiting for her. And I get to the door and he starts going off and getting in my face and stuff. You know what I think this is probably from? This is so stupid. The violence part of it, other than the food, is that we watched Real Housewives of Beverly Hills tonight, and Erica was real violent, and they were talking about people getting in your face and stuff like that. I wonder if that has something to do with that. But anyway, oh, they got the hay stalks out now at the farmer's market that you can buy. As if it's not early enough already. So he was like in my face, and I wasn't saying anything back because I was like terrified. And he was like bigger and very muscular, and he was like, and never in my life, and blah, 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 and my wife, and all this kind of stuff. And then all these people, there's like 3 guys that came in, and this one guy, he like came in saying something about somebody messing with him, and he was like, and you're gonna mess with me, like I'm not taking crap from anybody. He was kind of like a big guy. And so I looked at him and I said, hey, we need your help. And he was like, what's this guy saying to you? And the guy was like, nothing, man, nothing. He like walked out, and he was like, but I'll find you, or something like that. And so then I was like, I told him what's going on, and then my friend came out of the stall. And she was like, I was afraid to come out of the stall because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I was like, let's get out of here. And the guy that helped us was like, well, wait, and I'll walk you to the parking lot. And so he and his like friends walked us to the parking lot. And we like passed like the Christmas stuff. And there was like these really good pieces of pumpkin pie that we had went in before we went to the restroom. I don't know why. But anyway, but we like, forget it. We'll get that. We're going to go to this other Walmart or something like that is what we said. And we're like, we're never coming back to this Walmart. And then we got like out in the parking lot, and somebody like sideswiped it. It wasn't the same guy, but like somebody almost sideswiped us. And we were like, we got to get out of here. And again, I was in like the trunk of the car pulling out shoes. And I was like, let me take off these sneakers and put on these other shoes that are more comfortable to drive in. And I was changing my shoes in the driver's seat, and then I woke up. And that was my dream. I have the weirdest dreams, I tell you, I do. So I don't know, we got pizza tonight. Maybe it's from the pizza. Thank God we didn't watch American Horror Story. We were going to watch that. But we watched Real Housewives of Beverly Hills instead. One of the things I don't understand is why I remember dreams so vividly. Like I'm giving you guys kind of like a glide over, but there are like very specific things I remember about this dream. Like I remember, well, there was a whole other part that was about, like in the dream, like when I was like interacting with Zach and his husband Alistair, like they all drove Jeep Wranglers, and they had 2 younger sisters that lived with them that Zach has a sister, I think, but I don't know about Alistair. I think he has a sister too, I might be wrong. But they had like 2 younger sisters that were like in high school, and they both drove, like each of them had younger sisters, and they were best friends, these 2 girls. And they both drove Jeep Wranglers, and like something got recalled. And so while I was there, they were arguing over it. And I was like, well, my husband drives a Jeep Wrangler, and his didn't get recalled. There was nothing that got recalled about his. And we were like standing on this lane that was like in the woods, and I was talking to these 2 girls. It was just random stuff like that. Or like when my friend and I were like in the Walmart, and we were looking at all this different food, like it was in this deli section, kind of like frozen deli section, like right before we walked into the bathroom, and they have these pieces of pumpkin pie that were like really good, and like we wanted them so bad. And they have like oh, you know what, that's probably from the bread or the crust on the pizza, because the inside of the pumpkin pie had stuff on the inside of it. Just like, it's so weird where dreams come from, isn't it? you ever watch that movie back in the day with Robin Williams called What Dreams May Come? I feel like I feel like I read the book before I watched the movie. I think it's by that Matheson guy. And, it was a really good movie, but I also remember it being very sad, too. Like, when it came to the part about where his wife was, it was very sad. I haven't been to a psychic in a long time. I kind of like to go. I have a friend of mine. She's a psychic, medium / kind of like life coach. That she goes to, like, she'll like see stuff that's going on, and then they like talk about it, and I don't know how it works, but anyway, but like she swears by her, and I've like wanted to go to this one forever, and I always forget to she'll send me her information, and then like I totally forget to do anything with it. Oh man. So last night, after I got done vlogging, was it last night that I listened to some of my audiobook? I have like a little bit over 2 hours to listen to of this book. You know, it's not horrible. It's called Couple Found Slain. It's the book for Peter's Book Club for August. It's not horrible at all. I mean, there are some parts that are interesting to me. It reminds me of this book that I read when I was in graduate school. Did my pitch just... I feel like my voice is changing. Oh, I did a circle, and I went right back the same way that I did before. On this area that is closed off. Well, I'll just go the long way tonight instead of the detour. So, what was I saying? It reminds me kind of this book that I read when I was in graduate school. I read this book in graduate school. I don't remember for what class it was. It was so interesting, though. I wish I did know what this book was called, because it was such a great book. So interesting. And it was really about systems theory and about like how systems develop themselves, kind of. And it was about, I think we read it because I think the professor that we had was like friends with the person that read this book or something. I don't know. It was like their dissertation, and then they had turned it into a book. Because I do know that it took place at Indiana University in Indianapolis. And the book was about the leukemia ward, the pediatric leukemia ward at IU Medical Center, which is in Indianapolis. And it just was super. My dad worked there forever at the med center. It was super interesting because these kids knew. If anybody knows what this book is called, I would love to know. I would be very interested in reading this book again. It just was really, it was very endearing, and it was very insightful. And these kids knew everything. Like, they knew, like, which staff worked which hours. They knew, like, the names of, like, boyfriends and girlfriends of the staff that worked there. Like, they knew all this personal stuff about them. And it was this whole, like, that was how they existed within the system, right? Like, they would be at the nurse's station, and they'd be like, you know, like, is Susie here yet? Susie works at 2 o'clock today. And, like, if Susie was off because something had come up or whatever, or she had requested off and they weren't aware of that, like, it threw off their whole schedule. And it was really interesting reading that book, and how much the kids, like, acclimated and depended on the kind of, like, consistent schedule and system of the people that worked there. It was very interesting. And, like, things, like, you don't even think about it, right? Like, in that, when we talk about like kids needing structure and kids needing consistency, well, they do to some degree, you know, like, it's the same thing with like getting dogs on a schedule and whatnot. It's like, you know, kids that go to bed every single night at the same time and get up every single day at the same time and have breakfast, and they know that, you know, like, I think this is why my mom and dad were so worried about separating. And that was something else I said in my dream, was I said somebody said their dream car was a Jeep Wrangler, and I said mine used to be, but now it's a Porsche Carrera. Or did I say that in my video today? I may have said that in one of my videos today when I was driving around. But anyway, so, you know, it's interesting. If you even just think about, like, systems that you live within in your life, like there's family systems, you know, and that can just not be like your schedule. That can be like family systems of like what's your role within your family, you know. Are you the black sheep? Are you the court jester? Are you the family hero? Are you the peacemaker? Like, what are you, you know? Hell, I was learning all about that stuff long before I ever worked in treatment or got sober. That was counseling stuff back in the day we would talk about. You know, and it's interesting because even though, like, in my family there was, like, my dad, my mom, myself, and my stepmom, there were still roles that each of us played, you know? Depending on which person was acting out. And, like, if my mom was, like, the one acting out, like, if her alcoholism was acting out, then the roles shifted. So anyway, that book was really, really interesting back in the day. That's what this kind of reminds me of. But it's mostly about this Brian Bechtold who murdered his parents. And it's interesting because as you're reading the book, the author definitely is sympathetic towards him. I mean, I think what originally attempted to be an objective point of view about, I almost said unbiased, but I've been reading so much lately on how to, like, remove bias and, like, where does bias originate and whatever. And it's like basically every article that I read is like, there's no way to go into something without any kind of bias whatsoever. And I said that in a video the other day, a drama video. But to be like a documentarian or to be an author on this level where you're really just talking about the psychiatric facility, right? Like, you have to go into it somewhat objectively, unless you come out of the gate and you say, I mean, that, like, my point of doing this is to look at it through Brian's eyes, which she really is doing, and it is an interesting book from that point of view. But like, she doesn't talk about whether or not she reads, like, and I don't know how she would get access to him unless he granted her access to him. And then I still don't know how that would work, but, like, she talks a lot about stuff that happens, like, on the units and rumors that are being made about him. And I'm not saying that they're not true. I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm just saying that she never really discusses, like, the other side of it. Like, and what did the doctor say? She doesn't, like, interview the doctor. She doesn't ask the doctors, right? It's always just kind of like Brian's word. And so it's interesting to me in reading that, right? And so I'll have to see what happened to the book. I mean, I'm, like, just at the coming up on the halfway mark. So and I'll make more of an observation when I'm done with the book. But, you know, I think the other side is she goes in and she talks about, like, patricide for a long time, which is it it's patricide, right? Or is that the killing of somebody's father? Parasite. I feel like patricide is also the killing of one's parents. So she goes in and she talks about that actually for a little bit. And what's interesting to me about this is that she talks about, like, there comes a point when basically the part that I'm reading is that Brian is being picked on by everybody, okay? And that they're not giving him the same chances that they would give other people, okay? And that he's never going to be able to go to minimum security, and he's never going to live free and all this kind of stuff. And there's all of these reasons that she comes up with why they don't like him, right? And that people are spreading rumors about him because of this and because of that, and he's just an easy target. And even because he's an easy target, it's like because he doesn't fight back or whatever, which then she goes in to show that he does fight back. And that he's like slamming on this like director's like door and whatever. The book is interesting to me, but I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, like, she talks about so many patients up to this point. She'll say, like, and John so-and-so, and, you know, he shot his coworker who ended up living, or, you know, so-and-so who beat his neighbor with a hammer. But none of the cases, and she says in there, people that did things much worse than him. And I'm like, you do realize in the eyes of the majority of people, killing both of your parents is pretty severe, right? Like, do you think that there's maybe some bias or, you know, going towards that maybe that's why people are treating him the way that they do? Because they just don't think that somebody could really be that nice who kills their parents? Could there be any truth to that? I'm just asking, you know? I guess could that possibly be what it is? That they think that maybe, you know, that it has something to do with that they just don't like him, you know? Or they don't want to give him a chance. Well, first of all, there's this whole discussion at like 3 to 5 years of him being able to get out of minimum security and go live on his own. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Okay, first of all, if he had never pled insanity, which there's all this whole discussion about the insanity plea, which is very interesting. They don't really use it the way that they used to, and all this kind of stuff, and how it originates back to like the assassination attempt of Ronald Reagan. It's very interesting, which I, by the way, did not know. I need to maybe look into that a little bit. I did not know that guy was like obsessed with Jodie Foster. Did I? I feel like I didn't know that. But anyway, that he was like stalking Jodie Foster, obsessed with her, that John Hinckley guy. So anyway, there's like all this discussion about it, but then and I'm like, because like there's like an appeal that happens, like they have to like go through this process and talk to everybody in the hospital and everything. I'm like, okay, even if he was on minimum security for a year, and then they approved for him to get out, are you telling me that somebody with an insanity plea, let's say 5 years, okay, would be able to get out of the psychiatric facility at 5 years after killing both of his parents? Like, wouldn't they have to be tried again? Or no? Am I wrong about that? So, the defense, they can't, well, I guess it would be like that. You know, double jeopardy is when you've been convicted once, right? You can't be convicted twice for the same crime. So, like, after 3 to 5 years of him being in a psychiatric facility, because you're not allowed to call them insane asylums anymore. They talk about that in the book, which, I mean, who does? So I almost did, I guess. Well, they make it sound so, like, you know, Halloweenish, like in the book. She really does. I mean, she makes it sound like Nurse Cratchit sitting there drinking her coffee and smoking her cigarettes at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, and just not letting the patients just pee everywhere on the floor, which was another thing that I was kind of like put off by, that here's an author of a book about a psychiatric facility and she used the word piss in the book. I was like, she's like, and he thought he was a cat, and he would jump behind the counter or the nurse's station and piss on the floor. And I was like, you mean like he urinated on the floor, right? As an author, I'm just saying, like, that's how I would choose to write that sentence as an author of a book that's trying to, like, discredit a psychiatric facility. I think we're going to find out this psychiatric facility doesn't exist anymore by the end of the book, but I could be wrong. I don't know. It's very interesting, but it's like, I don't know. And then the reason why she is part of this facility is that she was there doing, like, some kind of case, not really a case study thing, but, like, like almost kind of like an internship or something. It's called like Focus on Fiction, and she'd have everybody in group. It stopped. I didn't really understand it. I'm gonna have to have somebody explain it to me, like Mel or somebody, Nikki or somebody in the group, because I didn't get it. It's called Focus on Fiction, and she like has this group where everybody comes, and then like she has them like write something fictional, but like nobody wants to write anything fictional because they say to her, everything that we do gets used against us. I don't know. I will say there's kind of like a little bit of, I'm just giving my 100% objective opinion. I don't know her. I don't know anything about her. All I know is I've read this book. I was kind of like, I mean, I'm sure there's 100% truth to all of these statements, but like when you read it, it's like every guy is like, oh, well, he, you know, like, shot both of his parents, but he's a really nice guy, you know, and just clean cut and really nice. And then there's this guy who thinks he's a cat and jumps over the nurse's station and pisses everywhere, but he's such a kind guy. And then it's like every woman she talks about in the book, like every guy is like really nice, right? But like every woman that she talks about is like, well, the majority of the women that she talks about are prostitutes. And then it's just like, she paints this kind of like picture of them that's, I'm sure, very true, maybe. I don't know, but like, I don't know. It just was interesting to me the way that she portrayed the women in the book, whether they were guards or whether they were patients. The book is interesting. I don't really know what to make of it. I don't know. She's actually, I think, written other books as I looked, and so we'll see what I think by the end of it. You know, I was saying, I did a booktube vlog today, and I was saying in the vlog, I said, isn't it interesting that you can talk more about a book that you don't necessarily like than a book that you really like? Like, if it's a book that I love, I'm like, oh, that book was so good, but I don't want to tell you too much about it because it'll ruin it for you. But like, if I find a book that I don't really love, like, I go on and on and on and on and on about it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? My foot is itching so bad from like these scabs healing, and I know what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get, like, they're gonna heal right as I get to Las Vegas. And then I saw like the lights in my rearview mirror and I thought it was a car coming this way. And I'm gonna end up getting blisters again out there is what's gonna happen. No, it's not, because I've got good shoes this time. So I got up today. Well, last night I listened to some of this book, and then I started listening to, I didn't listen to much of it. I'm like half the way through the first episode. I started listening to the podcast Your Own Backyard, which is about the disappearance of Kristen Smart. I don't remember what year she went missing, but she was a college student in California, like north of Santa Barbara area. And like Stockton is where her parents live, I think. Her mom reminds me so much of a family friend of ours. It's crazy. Like listening to her on the podcast. It's interesting. I'm really into this podcast thing, you guys. Any recommendations that you have for like single season series, you know, where like one whole season is dedicated to something, please, any true crime ones, I would happily take the suggestions. I'm like obsessed. And I'm like, oh, I want to finish this so I can listen to the next one. This one is 12 parts, so this is good because I can kind of like get into it. The last one, Tom Brown's Body, which was so good, was 8 parts, and each part was short. These are like an hour and 20 minutes, I noticed. Tom Brown's Body was like 40, around, the average one was about 40 some minutes, 42, 44, 46, something like that, 47. So I knew I could listen to 1 to 2 a day, right? Well, this one, I mean, with books and everything else, because I have to tell you, I am really excited to finish this true crime book so that I can start listening to a cozy mystery. I'm like really ready to get back to a cozy mystery. In fact, my plan had not been to sleep until 3 o'clock in the morning. My plan had been to, I was like, did I not bring my phone? My plan had been to get up. I think I set my alarm for 12:30. And Alex came upstairs. He came upstairs to bed like late because he was bringing like Tucker upstairs when he came up because Boo Radley was asleep with me. It was like 1:40. Well, I fell asleep and he had just turned on a new show and I don't know what it was. But my plan had not been to get up at 3:30 because I wanted to finish this audiobook tonight, and then so I could just listen to the podcast and I could start. I think I'm going to, well, I'm either going to listen to next, If the Shoe Fits, the Julie Murphy book for August or September, or I'm going to listen to a cozy mystery. We'll see. The Julie Murphy book will be quick too, because it's like 8 or 9 hours, so it's not like, and I love her books, so I'll just like tear right through it, right? I need to take that book and Falling to Tanya Jean. And I need to pick a book for October. For Peter's Book Club. Mel usually picks the book for October for a true crime book club because her birthday's in October. But I always joke with her. I'm like, we should read something spooky, Mel, during the month of October. But since it's her birthday month, she always picks... what do you call it? Gangster stuff. Which at first, I have to tell you, I was not excited about, but over the years, I've kind of like gotten excited about one book a year being about that. So, anyway, so the other day, she's been real busy, and so she's like, well, I may just let you pick the October book. And she was like, and do something spooky, scary. The thing is, there's not really that many great books out, true crime books out right now that I'm like dying to read. I mean, there's always something that you can find, right? But there's not like tons that's out. I had thought like the Jack the Ripper books would be, or the Jack the Ripper book that came out, it's called something, it's like new in like the last 2 years, that it would be really interesting. But somebody told me, you know, everybody's trying to, here's the thing, okay? Now that Michelle McNamara wrote I'll Be Gone in the Dark, one woman's obsessive search for the Golden State Killer, it's like everybody has to do it different ways now, right? Like they all have to write these, you know, like uniquely literary true crime novels. We can't just keep it to the true crime. We have to like, well, let's go and show you this, or let's go and show you that. And it's almost like, it's, to be honest with you, it's made the entire genre very boring to me. She did her book fantastically, okay? But it's all these people trying to go in and do something just different and, you know, and reinvent the wheel. It's like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. And so, I heard that while the Jack the Ripper book was interesting, it's about the victims, because we, you know, focus so much about the victims. But it's like the victims of Jack the Ripper, and he's not discussed in it at all. Well, I don't, first of all, know enough about Jack the Ripper to read a book about the victims, like, if there's any reference to it. And I've met a couple people that have read it, and they're like, if you don't really know the history of Jack the Ripper, it won't be interesting to you. And I was like, oh, okay. Now, I do know that Mel has wanted to read about Bonnie and Clyde, the Black Dahlia. That might be a good one to read for October, the Black Dahlia. And also, do they reference the Black Dahlia in Scream 4? I kind of feel like they do. Something with her mom. So they, the Black Dahlia, well, Bonnie and Clyde, the Black Dahlia, and what's the other one that she's been wanting to do? Was it Lizzie Borden that she was wanting to do? I would read about Lizzie Borden, but honestly, Melissa was kind of obsessed with Lizzie Borden for a while, and so, like, whenever we would get together, we would watch, like, a bunch of stuff with Lizzie Borden, like that Christina Ricci movie and everything like that. And I feel like I know a lot about Lizzie Borden. I'm not real interested in Lizzie Borden. So I don't know, we'll look up some stuff. I'll see if there's any true crime books that have come out. You'd think that there would be true crime books that come out left and right. Here's the thing, right? It's like with other genres, when like, like, okay, here's a good example. When the Dan Brown book came out, the very first one, not Angels and Demons, that was the very first one, but I guess the second one, why can't I think of what it's called? The one about the Louvre in Paris, and the first one they made into the Da Vinci Code. The Da Vinci Code. Do you remember when the Da Vinci Code came out? If you are a reader like me, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll be like nodding like this. Okay. The Da Vinci Code came out, and I swear to God, you guys, in the next 2 years, the amount of books that came out about the Illuminati, and they were all of these, like, having to, like, find some secret piece of artwork because it had some inscribed message from the Masons of, like, 1400. I mean, like, every book was like that for a while that you'd see on the bestseller list, right? By, like, famous authors and not famous authors. And so it's kind of like that. Well, true crime has really taken off in the last, 5 years or so, I would say. I don't know that I would push it to 10 years. I would say the last 5 years, true crime has gained a newfound respect. I know there's a lot of people that do not like true crime, and I understand that, and I respect that. And I like true crime that's done a certain way. But I also I have to be honest, I also do love the old, and this is where I kind of like the podcasts, because they remind me of this a little bit. I kind of do like the old true crime books of like the 80s and 90s. Maybe we should read, for October, another, what's her face? What's her face? I don't know her name, but a face rings a bell. What, I told Mel that joke. That's who I told that joke to. What's her name that wrote The Stranger Beside Me? Anne Rule. Maybe we should read another Anne Rule. We've read two John Glad's, so we could read another Anne Rule. Her books are interesting. They're very good. We haven't read The Green River Killer, and I don't know anything about The Green River Killer. Oh, but I know Mel has, so I don't know how interesting that would be to her. So anyway, we'll see. I've got to figure out those two things. What is tomorrow, the 10th? Yeah, I need to get on that. For both groups. And then so I got up this morning after listening to that and listening to a little bit of that podcast last night. I probably listened to like a half an hour of it. I went to bed last night, then I got up today. I had a haircut. I also drove through late last night and got money for the tip for my haircut. I think I left my hat, you guys, at the hair salon. I hope not. Anyway, I went and got my haircut today, and then I went and did a review at Panera Bread, because there was a Panera Bread really close to there that was actually open, and I knew that because my hairstylist had told me that she went there the day before, and I was like, well, is it closed because the one near me? She's like, no, it was totally open. I was like, oh, okay. So I went to Panera Bread and I did a review. And then I did a booktube video, and then I came home, and it was like still really early. It was like not even 3 o'clock yet, or maybe just a little bit after 3 o'clock. And so I filmed a Peter Does Stuff video. I filmed a Peterisms video, and then a drama video. And I think I did it in that order. I'm almost positive. And then I got those uploaded. I lit candles everywhere, and had candle waxes going. When Alex came home, he was like, what's that smell? And I said, one of my candle waxes or candles. I said, why? What does it smell like? And he goes, it smells like baking bread. And I said, does it smell good? He was like, oh yeah, I like it. So that's what it smells like in our house, baking bread. Should I do the detour one last time? Okay. So I like went all the way around, and now here I am. Okay. This is a route tonight, or a route, whichever one you say. I say route. This is a route tonight that I have like never done. The first half I've taken before, but this is a route that I've never taken before. Is Longhorn Steakhouse even open anymore? It looks like it, I guess. But anyway, all these places like closed down. It's like, oh, is this closed? Oh, that's closed now. And I'm kind of surprised that the Spirit Halloween store hasn't already opened this year, or maybe they're not going to have it in the same place. They move it around, around from place to place every year. Anyway, I have to admit that place is kind of junky when they have it there. Oh, I think that they have it in Glendale now, and it's real nice where they have it there. But, so I did my hair appointment, got my videos filmed, came home. I never did get coffee today. I don't know why. I was kind of like, didn't even think about it. I had enough Diet Coke, so. And this was my excuse for it. Well, when you were in Vegas, you were drinking a lot of Diet Cokes by the pool. That was kind of the way that I rationalized it. So anyway, yeah, I got all that stuff done, and then Alex was on his way home from work. He had to work till late tonight. He had like this big like event thing that he was helping putting together. So he was on his way home, and he was like super hungry. He hadn't eaten today. And so I was like, well, do you want to get something, or what do you want to do? I kind of wanted to just get out of the house for a little bit, because I was like, oh my God, I've been like stuck in this house all day since I went to go get my hair cut. And he was like, would you want to do pizza? And I was like, yeah, sure. I said, why don't you just wait till because I was still uploading videos. And I said, when you get home, we'll decide on it. So when he got home, he really wanted Pizza Hut, but Pizza Hut was closing. This was at like 8 something. Like 8:30 or something. Pizza Hut was closing at 9, and so he was like, well, let's skip Pizza Hut and we'll just do Papa John's. So we did Papa John's, and he ordered it, and then I drove and listened to my audiobook for a little bit because I wanted to get out of the house, and I also just wanted to listen to my audiobook so I could I'm trying to listen to it as much as I possibly can throughout the day so I can listen to other stuff that I like want to at night, because I'm not loving this audiobook. Like I said, I don't really dislike it, but it's not my favorite true crime book that we've read. So I did that, and then I came home, and we sat down and ate, and he was like, do you want to watch American Horror Story, or do you want to watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? And I said, babe, it's totally up to you. I don't care. And he was like, well, let's save a special day just this weekend to dedicate to American Horror Story. I was like, well, how many episodes do we have? And he was like, I think 3. And I was like, that's totally fine. So we're going to watch American Horror Story one night this weekend. RuPaul's Drag Race is over, of course, so American Horror Story is our new thing. And then that new show, the new Ryan Murphy impeachment with Sarah Paulson and everything. Has anybody watched that? Has anybody started it yet? I feel like I have so many shows at the same time to watch. Well, I watch anything that Ryan Murphy puts out. I love Ryan Murphy. I watched Glee back in the day, and so I loved the People versus Larry. Not People versus Larry Flint. I did love that movie, but the People, I think it was called People versus O.J. Simpson. Sarah Paulson was in that one, and then Darren Criss played the guy that killed Gianni Versace. That one was fantastic. That was really, really good. That Ryan Murphy did that one as well. And now this is the 3rd one I think he's done. Am I correct? So it'll be interesting to watch that show. It's interesting to me that he released 2 shows at the same time, basically. American Horror Story and that one. But anyway. American Horror Story is supposed to be about aliens or something this season, which I don't listen. I love all that, so I'm excited about it. Oh, I was looking at the cast. It's like the same cast as always. It's all these people that I love on there. So I'm excited about watching it. So that'll be the show that Alex and I watch together. Tanya Jean was asking me tonight. She's like, well, what show should I watch? And I was trying to get her to watch other, Bodies in the Building, because I think that show's so fantastic. And she's like, oh, I started watching it and I really wasn't into it. I said, really? How far did you watch it, Tanya Jean? I said, because it really reminds me of Grace and Frankie, which she loves. And she was like, well, sometimes I just put Grace and Frankie on in the background when I'm cleaning and stuff like that. I don't really pay that much attention to it. Which is so funny, because Tanya watches all these reality shows, and that's what she always says. She's always like, well, they're just on in the background. I'm not really paying that much attention to them. And I'm like, okay. She knows every fact and detail of everything that happens with these people on these reality shows. And I'm like, but you just have it on in the background. She cracks me up so much. I gotta take these books to her. I gotta remember to do that tomorrow. I need to just keep them in my car so that I can make sure to, just next time I see her. Well, tonight we were gonna get a fountain pop, but I texted her when we finished watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I was like, what are you doing? And are you in for the night? And she was like, I'm watching TV with Eric. And I'm, yes, sir. Or something like that. So she was in for the night. Okay, let me just tell you that Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, that Erica has lost her mind, okay? I said this the other day about her getting in Sutton's face at Kathy Hilton's dinner party. And that's like exactly where it picked up on the show. Like, it was still like at the dinner party. So like it ended there last week and this week it started there. And it was even worse. And Erica was like threatening Sutton. And she's like, do you want to get sued? And Sutton was like, excuse me? And she was like, you know, saying all this stuff. And Sutton was like, are you threatening me? And she's like, I'm not threatening you. It's a promise and all this kind of stuff. And so Sutton left, and you could tell she was like noticeably shaken. And I couldn't believe that Alex and I agreed 100% on this. Now, I love Kyle, I do, but Kyle pushed Sutton in that direction. And she was like, well, I just wanted you to tell your truth. No, Kyle was basically calling Sutton a liar, saying, because Sutton was like, when she met with Kyle, she was like, well, when I see Erica, I'm going to tell her this, that, and the other, right? And so then when she met, and Sutton was kind of pulling back in because she could see, like, how upset Erica was, and she didn't want to get into an argument with her, then Kyle was like, no, Sutton, that's not what you said. Don't you remember what you said? And so basically forcing Sutton to talk about it. And then when she did talk about it, even though every other woman at the table had said something about it, nobody stood up for Sutton. She's literally getting chewed apart at the table by Erica, and they're all just like, oh, I'm so sorry, Erica. And Sutton gets up and finally leaves, right? Which I don't blame her. I wouldn't have anybody threaten me at a dinner table. I would be out of there so bad. And it was funny because Alex said, he was like, these women, he said, like, people think they act crazy. He said, they act better than I do, because if I was at a dinner party like that and somebody got up in my face and threatened me, he said, with their nails just inches away from my face, he said, I don't really know what I would do. And I said, so you think that Erica acted inappropriately, that she was rude? He goes, oh my God. He goes, she was threatening Sutton. It was unbelievable. So, anyway, I know y'all don't care about that. People are so nice. They're like, would you please do whole videos just about the Real Housewives? Please, would you do write a book about the Real... No, they haven't said that. But I'm like, not enough people care about the Real Housewives for me to do a whole... I mean, if I had started my channel and it was dedicated to that, then yes, I think that people would be interested in that. But if I were to just start doing that now, maybe I will. Maybe tomorrow my whole video will be called Sutton versus Erica. And then everybody can come and yell at me about how I got everything wrong. That seems to be the go-to these days. You don't get anything right. All of your facts are wrong. I'm like, you do get that. Like, my channel is just like commentary, observation on what I see. Like, right? Like, it's not like I'm going in and doing like deep dive investigations. Oh, man. You know what's so crazy about me? Like yesterday was talking about, I did that rant video about like Halloween seems like it's like coming so quick and all this kind of stuff. Is the reality is, before I know it, Halloween will be over and we'll be on our way to Christmas. I mean, that's just the truth. You know what I mean? It's just the truth. It's just the truth. And it'll be cold outside, and I won't be able to wear shorts anymore. And we haven't talked at all about taking a trip in October. I guess that's probably not happening. I really wanted to rent the house that we rented last year because I love that house so much. But when I looked online, it's like booked out for like months. So they must like be staying there or something. I don't know. Should we go to Florida for a couple days in October? Put yes or no in the comment section below and let me know. All right, you guys, listen, I'm going to get off here now so I can listen to some of my audiobook and so I can listen to some of my podcast. And, yeah. So anyway, I love you guys. If nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Broad is dead right now, which I guess it should be at 4:47 in the morning. This is like where all the kids from Butler go, and they go out to the bars and stuff like that. So anyway, they should be probably in bed for school tomorrow, don't you think? Well, I guess tomorrow's Friday. Well, they should still be in bed for school. Anyway, if nobody else has told you this, they're not usually, though, on a Wednesday night. Like, Wednesday is like a Friday night in Broad Ripple. Wednesday nights are packed here. Like, all of the bars are, like, packed and stuff. Anyway, some of these bars, like Average Joe's, Mine Shaft, Land Sharks, Alley Cat. Some of these bars have literally, you guys, been here since 10 years before I was 21. Is that not crazy? Anyway, all right, you guys, listen, I'm going to get off here now. If nobody else has told you this today, I love you. I hope that you are having a magically amazing Friday. Thank God it's Friday. And a magically amazing beginning to your weekend. I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya!